mystery writers. Welcome to Write a Killer Mystery. I'm Zara Altair, mystery author and creator of the course Write a Killer Mystery. Today I want to talk about the mystery novel Midpoint and how you create a new hook for your reader. First, I want to thank my patrons on Patreon, and if you like this series, I'd love for you to join where I have special notices and videos dedicated just for my patrons. The link is in the description below. All right, so let's master the mystery novel Midpoint. It's like a new hook right in the middle. It's the connection between the first and second halves of your mystery. In the first half, your detective sleuth uncovers the victim's world. They're introduced to the crime, and then they have to go figure out who was involved. They discover suspects and evidence. And in the second half, the sleuth narrows down the suspects to the villain. Right there in the middle, there's a bridge between those two journeys. And the midpoint is the fulcrum that tilts the sleuth from discovery to constricting the search. So it's like you have two different halves of your mystery novel. And right at that midpoint, you want to create a dark road ahead. It's the most challenging part of the story for a lot of writers, where you can stall or feel as though your story's not going anywhere, or at least not going well. And a reversal in the middle not only props up that story, it gives the reader a new question. Where is the story going? So you want to give the reader a feeling that the road ahead is dark and impenetrable, and you accomplish this with a big reversal. So let's talk a little about that midpoint reversal. It throws the entire plot so far, it just throws it sideways. And things have to change because your sleuth plan is no longer viable. Things have to change, and with the reversal, the sleuth's goal to catch the villain is also harder. Not only that, the stakes become higher and the consequences become more serious, especially if they fail, and there are going to be some failures along the way. So your sleuth essentially goes from reacting to the crime to actively working to find the villain, because you create a new momentum in that second half and begin driving the plot toward the ending. So right there in the middle, you shake up the plot and cause your sleuth world to turn upside down. Things they thought they knew won't be true, or lies they believed won't be lies. Everything is upside down. Everything becomes unstable, and while your detective rearranges the puzzle pieces, he sees something new, has an epiphany that tells him he's been looking at the wrong details. It could be that the suspect who seemed like the right one reveals an alibi that puts them out of the picture. Whatever it is, he's still lost in the victim's world and realizes he's been looking at the wrong clues. And stumped by recent events, your detective tries going back to the old interpretations. She reviews what suspect says, considers the victim's world, and pokes around in it, and completely missing key elements. In other words, your detective is regrouping, but they see nothing new. And soon after the midpoint, your detective will set a new goal that leads them to the conclusion. But for now, at the midpoint, they're lost. So let's look at a few ways you can create that midpoint reversal. Planning the midpoint reversal will propel you into the second half of the story, build tension, and raise questions. And that's essentially what you want to do right here in the middle. You want to raise a lot of questions for your readers so that they thought they were going long, everything seemed to be going okay. And then all of a sudden, whoo, the world's upside down, and the reader's like, oh, what is going to happen now? So one way you can create a reversal is to reveal new information. Something that was hidden, a secret's revealed, there's new evidence. It's essentially anything that disrupts everything the sleuth has thought or done before. So you create a surprise that throws the story for a loop, or your sleuth gets what they thought they wanted, but it turns out to be the worst thing for them. So you can make it go either way. Either way, their success has terrible consequences, and however the new information comes, the change in perception is critical to push your sleuth into that second half. Okay, and another thing that can happen in the midpoint reversal is to pile on trouble. The sleuth's been going long, interviewing suspects, looking at evidence, etc. And the midpoint is the beginning of everything going wrong for your sleuth. In the first half, your sleuth creates their own trouble. But in the second half, trouble piles on, and often it comes from the outside and often instigated by the villain. The villain may not be seen as instigating it to the reader, but you know as the writer that the villain is piling on trouble for your protagonist. And your sleuth reaps the consequences of everything they've done wrong, consciously or unconsciously. Another thing that happens after the middle is the support system collapses. People and things the sleuth has relied on until now get stripped away, and that happens one by one as you go through the second half of your story. Characters who helped before may now be unwilling or unable to help. And from the midpoint, you lead your sleuth to the dark moment when they're helpless, especially in the case of the villain. And the fourth thing with a midpoint reversal is something happens and the clock starts ticking. There's a big deadline. There's a hard deadline that raises the stakes and makes things even harder for your sleuth. And the sleuth understands the full extent of the problem. They know what's coming at them. It's coming at them at high speed, but right there in the middle, they have no idea how to solve the problem. So you want to plan the midpoint reversal to boost the story. It's like regenerates interest for your readers. It invigorates your story. Its story is going in a whole new direction that your reader didn't see coming in the first half of your story, and you'll definitely avoid the notorious sagging middle. And so with a new promise of things to come, you'll send the story in a new direction and create new twists. And you'll once again invigorate your story with an unexpected turn, causing your reader to anticipate what's going to happen next, because everything so far has just got thrown out the window, as it were, and now it's like starting all over again. So you create this unexpected direction with the midpoint reversal. All right, so I hope that helps you understand, and especially if you're struggling with your middle feeling kind of repetitive or boring, or it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, right there at the midpoint, throw in a complete reversal and see where your story goes from there. It's actually a lot of fun. Um, the midpoint is something that students in Write a Killer Mystery, it's a whole section in the course where I go into detail about working with the midpoint, and I go into a lot of detail about what comes before and what comes after that midpoint. There's a link to the course in the description below. I invite you to check it out. All right, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and don't forget to click that notification bell so you won't miss another episode of Write a Killer Mystery. Until next time, keep writing.